Alright, it's time for Frankenstein 1931, the next Universal monster movie with Boris Karloff playing the role of the monster. What's interesting about this is that Bela Lugosi was offered the role of the monster. Hot off of Dracula, he did a really good job with that, so they offered him the role as for basically the main character, or the main monster anyway. And he declined because there wasn't any lines. The only thing that the Frankenstein monster says is "wow." I mean, so he decided he didn't want to do that, even though Boris Karloff showed that you did not need to be able to say anything throughout this entire movie to do a good job as this character, because he did such a great job with his facial expressions. The makeup was fantastic, and you know, his body language, like just the way he moved around, he really seemed like he was like an infant, or with an infant mind. This basically, you know, a dead body reanimated into life, and he, you know, has no recollection of like who he is or anything like that. So he's just, you know, learning the steps of living basically in an adult body, a gigantic adult body. He did a really good job portraying that. But I can understand Bela Lugosi saying that he didn't want to do this because his voice is just so, you know, iconic and legendary that he would want to be able to say a few lines. So anyway, this movie deviates from the novel of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein a lot more than the Dracula 1931 film did. The Dracula 1931 was pretty close, but this one really changes a lot of the story. The basic story, the basic premise of this crazy mad doctor bringing a corpse back to life, or a bunch of meat pieces back to life with electricity, is still there, and then the monster goes on a rampage. That's still all present, but there's a lot that, like halfway through, like the second act and third act, are kind of really different from the novel. But the novel is not the greatest. The story is good, but the novel itself, man, apparently Mary Shelley wrote that in like a week or something like that. It kind of shows. Anyway, I like the story, not how it was written. Anyway, about the film. The acting by Boris Karloff, like I said, he did a great job. Dwight Frye, who I loved in Dracula, returns as Fritz, who is not, he's Igor. He's not called Igor, he's called Fritz, but he's Igor. He is the definition of the character. He's the helper of Dr. Frankenstein, which is something that we would see, you know, after this movie, you would always see this character that would show up, Igor, you know, with the hunchback, and he's a lot shorter, and he's kind of messed up, and he's always helping out this mad doctor. That character was created from this film. I like that the Universal monster movies had such a big influence on pop culture for these characters. I mean, they were just so huge that they continued on. Igor, this character, was created from this film called Fritz. Dwight Frye did a pretty good job. Not as good as I liked him in Dracula. The Dr. Frankenstein, the guy who played Dr. Frankenstein, I don't know his name, but he did a really good job. I really enjoyed him as the main character. He really showed that he was this scientist that wanted to create this life, and he was so devoted in his work, and he was kind of going crazy at the same time, and then he feels regret. The only times I didn't like him was when they would have like the close-ups. He would do a really good job when he was acting, but then with the close-ups he was very just wooden. All right, blah, blah, blah. He just wouldn't move, and it was like, you have to get into the role and keep moving around type of thing. But other than that, he did a very good job. The guy that played Van Helsing in Dracula also returns in this movie as another doctor. Overall, I would probably say I like Frankenstein more than Dracula. Dracula interests me more because it's about Dracula, so it's about vampires. But this is done in a much better way. Like, there's no skipping of scenes or anything like that. Like, you felt like it was flowing a lot better, and the acting is overall a little bit better as well. Just everything overall is a little bit better packaged in Frankenstein 1931. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Same rating as Dracula, but still better than Dracula. So there's my review. Thank you all for watching. You've been bearded in Beardage.